All right, class, as promised, I'm going to go over the project as far as how to do certain things within the project. So we're going to start first with Budget Busters. Budget Busters is the one with the pie chart, talking about salary and income and stuff like that. Um, so I'm not going to go over the answers, obviously, but I'm going to give a random example. So let's say you make $50,000 a year, right? Right, and your tax rate is 28%. Right? So my first question is, how much do I pay yearly in taxes? Right? So real simple. Grab my trusty dusty or not so dusty, and take that 50,000, right, and multiply it by 28%. Right? You can do 28 and a percent sign on the calculator, or you can do point, which is the dot, right, the period, 28 to get 28%. Whichever way you do it, it'll be fine. You're going to get $14,000, right? So if I multiply that times that, I get $14,000. Taxes. So that's how much money I pay in taxes for the entire year, right? So the next question says, your net annual income. Annual means all year long. So how do I get that? This is considered my gross income, right? I figured out how much taxes I pay per year at 28%. So to get my net annual income, I subtract the 50,000 from the 14,000, right? So subtract 50,000 minus 14,000, and I get $36,000, right? Annual. So that 36,000 represents my annual income after taxes for the entire year, right? So now we have to find the net monthly income, right? So if this is my annual, right, and there's 12 months in a year, then I would divide 36,000 divided by 12, right? And I get $3,000. Net monthly. All right, so $3,000 net monthly. So that, what does that mean? That means after I pay all of my taxes, right? My salary is $50,000. I pay my taxes to Uncle Sam, right? I take home $3,000 a month to use to pay my expenses, to have a little fun after. Hopefully there's money left over after I pay my expenses and things of that nature. So now, so that number right here is going to be the end all be all if you have finished out the rest of this section per person, right? Whether it's DeAndre, whether it's Sanaya, whoever is on here, right? You need that number right there to solve the problem. All right. So next, we have, let's take a category, housing, right? So housing says $1,200. Now, obviously, these aren't the right numbers because I'm using fictitious numbers on my own, right? But the housing numbers and all that is going to be the same. I'm not going to go over all the categories. I'm just going to do housing, right? So housing says $1,200. That is his actual money, the actual dollar amount he spent when he is on his mortgage or his lease, whatever the case may be, right? His rent, right? So it's asking for a percentage. So how do I find that? I take that $1,200, right, and I divide it by the net monthly income, right? So that $1,200 is divided by $3,000, right? I take my trusty dusty, put in 1,200 divided by 3,000, I get 0.40, right? That number right there, I then multiply that by 100 because percentages are out of 100. Multiply that by 100 and I get 40%. Okay? So 40% means that out of his $3,000 that he gets per month, 40% of it goes to his house, right? Either rent or mortgage, right? So that is his actual. So then you complete the groceries, transportation, debt, church, savings, and find the percentages of each of them, which should all add up to 100 at the end of the day. All right? Now, when I go to the left, which is the pie chart, it says projected. Projected means your budget. Before you even look at your income, right, you make a budget to say, okay, I have this amount of money to spend on this amount of money to spend on that, and hopefully at the end of the month, I'll have available funds, right? So, $3,000 is my net income, right? Under housing, under projected, it says 30%. So, how do I find out that number, right? So that's easy. I just take that 3,000, multiply it by 30%, right? And I get $900. Right? If I take that 3,000, plug it into my calculator, do a 0.30 or 30 with the percent sign, it's going to come out to $900. So what does that mean? That means that I budgeted to spend $900 a month on my rent or my mortgage for the month. Now, however, the next thing says, you'll see actual. So actual says $1,200. Projected says $900. Because you just figured that out. And then it's a thing that says the difference. The difference. Well, the difference is, just like in mathematical terms, difference means subtract, right? So I take that $1,200, subtract it from $900, and the difference is $300. Now, here's where it's going to be, you have to really think about it a little bit. If I budgeted for $900 to spend on my mortgage or my rent, but it actually cost me $1,200, did I spend more or less? Well, I spent more money. Oh, really? All right. So, $1,200 is my actual. I budgeted for $900. I spent $300. The difference is $300, but that's a negative. Right? Why is that negative? Because I spent more money than I wanted to. That's never a good thing. But hey, sometimes it happens. Okay, so that's going to be the difference between negatives and positive. Now I know you're looking at this, somebody's looking at this and saying, well, $1,200 minus $900 is not negative $300. I get that. But we're looking at actuals versus projected. Projected means budget, what you want to spend. Actual means what you have spent. Right? And since you spent more in the actual, anytime your actual is greater than your budgeted, that's a negative number. And that's never good in life. All right. Okay, so hopefully this will help you in Budget Busters. Now, you got to answer the questions that are attached to Budget Busters, but this is a safe way of how you do this section or segment of the project. Sounds good? Good stuff.